Salome Alexandra, or Alexandra of Jerusalem, was one of only 2 women to rule over Judea, the wife of Aristobulus I, and afterward of Alexander Jannaeus. She was the last woman ruler of Judea, and the last ruler of ancient Judea to die as the ruler of an independent kingdom from 76 to 67 BCE. Family. Her personal genealogy is not given by Josephus. Rabbinical sources designate the sage Simeon b. Shetter as her brother. If this is meant literally and is true, she was the daughter of Setter bar Yosei. Salome Alexandra's oldest son by Alexander Jannaeus was Hyrcanus II, who fought his younger brother Aristobulus II in the 60s BC over the Jewish high priesthood. Hyrcanus II was eventually successful after enlisting the help of the Nabatean king Aretas III, bribing Roman officials, including Scaurus, and gaining the favor of Pompey the Great, who defeated his brother and took him away to Rome. Consort. According to the Jewish encyclopedia, Alexandra was instrumental in arranging the assassination of her brother-in-law Antigonus, by convincing her husband that his brother was plotting against him. Upon the death of Aristobulus in 1003 BCE, Aristobulus's widow freed his half-brother Alexander Jannaeus, who had been held in prison during the reign of Alexander, who apparently married her shortly after his accession. Alexandra seemed to have wielded only slight political influence, as evidenced by the hostile attitude of the king to the Pharisees. Political ability. The frequent visits to the palace of the chief of the Pharisaic party, Simeon ben Shettach, who was said to be the queen's brother, must have occurred in the early years of Alexander's reign, before Alexander had openly broken with the Pharisees. Alexandra does not seem to have been able to prevent the cruel persecution of that sect by her husband. According to archaeologist Kenneth Atkinson, there are also some passages in the Talmud that say, during her husband's reign, that she protected Pharisees and hid Pharisees from his wrath. Quote, nevertheless, the married life of the royal pair seems to have ended cordially. On his deathbed, Alexander entrusted the government, not to his sons but to his wife. Her next concern was to open negotiations with the leaders of the Pharisees, whose places of concealment she knew. Having been given assurances as to her future policy, they declared themselves ready to give Alexander's remains the obsequies due to a monarch. By this step she avoided any public affront to the dead king, which, owing to the embitterment of the people, would certainly have found expression at the interment. This might have been attended with dangerous results to the Hasmonean dynasty. Regent Alexandra received the reins of government at Jannaeus's camp before Ragaba, and concealed the king's death until the fortress had fallen, in order that the rigor of the siege might be maintained. She succeeded for a time in quieting the vexatious internal dissensions of the kingdom that existed at the time of Alexander's death, and she did this peacefully and without detriment to the political relations of the Jewish state to the outside world. Alexandra managed to secure assent to a Hasmonean monarchy from the Pharisees, who had suffered intense misery under Alexander and became Judea's ruling class. Re-establishment of the Sanhedrin. The Pharisees, who had suffered intense misery under Alexander, now became not only a tolerated section of the community, but actually the ruling class. Alexandra installed as high priest her eldest son, Hyrcanus II, a man wholly after the heart of the Pharisees, and the Sanhedrin was reorganized according to the wishes. This body had hitherto been, as it were, a House of Lords, the members of which belonged to the highest rabbinical court. For this time it became a Supreme Court for the administration of justice and religious matters, the guidance of which was placed in the hands of the Pharisees. Prosperity. Rabbinical sources still further magnify the prosperity which Judea enjoyed under Alexandra. The Haggadah relates that during her rule, as a reward for her piety, rain fell only on Sabbath nights, so that the working class suffered no loss of pay through the rain falling during the work time. The fertility of the soil was so great that the grains of wheat grew as large as kidney beans, oats as large as olives, and lentils as large as gold denarii. The sages collected specimens of these grains and preserved them to show future generations the reward of obedience to the law, and what piety can achieve. Name Salome, derived from the queen's name, is sometimes used as a female first name in contemporary Israel. Among others, the well-known Israeli writer Amos Keenan bestowed that name on his daughter. In the 1977 Knesset elections, Ariel Sharon accepted the advice of Keenan to give the name Salome to a new political party which Sharon was forming at the time.